Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And today we have a very exciting topic that is going to be sales strategies. We are going to show you how you are going to meet your numbers in the online world. We know very well how to meet our numbers in the traditional world. It was easy, but in the online world, it's going to be slightly more difficult. But we are going to provide the framework today for your goals. If you are joining for the first time, we meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and we pick just one topic related to e-commerce journey. And we always have a very exciting panel who are generous enough to share their insight and wisdom with you guys. So today also we are going to have fun. Without further ado, we are going to start with the intros. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sam. Great to be here with everyone. Chris Harrington, president of Gen Alpha. We are a solution provider of e-commerce, e-catalog, and analytics for equipment and parts manufacturers and distributors. So such a pleasure to be here. Frequently, I'm talking about B2B sales. So that's kind of the perspective I'll come from with any of my answers today.
And today you are the real salesperson in the room, to be honest, Chris. Rest of them are really pretending to be a salesperson. Okay. So you are going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting. We'll see,
Okay.
how marketing side is reacting. We are going to wait for that. But thank you so much for being here, Chris. All right, Ben, can I move to you next for your intro?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Also excited to be here. I think this is going to be a lot of fun today. I'm Ben Searcy. I am the Chief Commercial Officer at Govi, and I'm excited to be chatting about sales and marketing collaboration. I think in particular because I think there's a mistake where people think sales and marketing need to butt heads. That's certainly not true, and the most successful organizations figure out how to work together. So that's what I'm here to talk about today.
So my expectation was that we were going to actually butt head today. I mean that's what I want, to be honest, from this show. Okay, but we'll have a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being here, Ben. Okay, Eric, can I move to you next for your introduction, if you don't mind?
Sure. I'm Eric Landman. I'm the e-commerce division manager of Earthling Interactive, and I'm a developer by trade. Built out over 50 websites, e-commerce sites, variety of platforms. I'm a Magento certified solution specialist, and I've worked with Shopify also. So my role is to listen to what the salespeople say and try to collect the requirements and figure out how to make it all work. There you go.
Yeah. And Eric, trust me, today is going to be your day. You are going to see how to meet the numbers, how to do sales. This is going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay.
Dave, can I move to you next?
You bet. Hey, everybody. Dave Meyer with BusyWeb. BusyWeb is a growth marketing agency located in Minneapolis that has been helping manufacturing and B2B services companies drive new leads and new sales for a long time, for 22 years, in fact. So what we do is we help drive traffic, and then we help automate the sales response to engage people and actually close those deals. So we absolutely help our clients with sales. And one of the biggest and funnest things that I like to talk about with my clients and kind of on stage is that there's no more sales, there's no more marketing. It's smarketing, it's revenue, it's growth. We all need to be on the same team. And that's what I'm going to talk about for my part today.
Okay, amazing, Dave. And I remember every single comment that everybody makes on this show. And I remember in the last panel, there was a comment related to salespeople being coin operated. So let's face it, today you are going to be coin operated because you are a salesperson today in this show. Thank you so much for being here. Steve, can I move to you next for your intro?
Yes, thanks for having me here. Great people on this panel. My name is Steve Rice. I'm with .com Jungle, and short story is we help companies make and implement wise technology choices. And a lot of what we do is sort of at the other end of the marketing and sales by providing the technology pieces and sort of lifting up the vision, if possible, to answer those questions about what our winning aspiration is and what our actual larger strategy is, so that the people who are in the marketing sales can actually apply the strategies and individual tactics to succeed. So I'm definitely going to be in the category, I think, with everybody here, but Dave and Ben said it most loudly, that it's a relationship and it's a teamwork issue, and marketing sales are not different, and technology that drives the company is not different from the technology that drives marketing or sales.
So, Steve, you know me, MEC, you know my vision as well. As long as I'm hitting my numbers, as long as I'm getting money in my bank account, that's what I care for. That's my vision. Okay, so we are going to have so much fun talking about that today. Thank you so much for being here, Steve. All right, so let's dig into the topic. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you. Okay, so as you know how sales leaders typically work. If I work in the traditional world, in the B2C world, I had my retail store. I'm going to ask my guy, I am looking for $5 million, $6 million, whatever, that store can bring me. And my guy is going to make sure that I am getting the $6 million in that year, based on and whatever resources they need, they can probably ask, but you don't require as much planning. The same thing happens in the B2B world as well. We simply need to find different retailers that we need to target. We divide the territories, most likely in terms of the number of states. We hire a bunch of smart salespeople who are really good at phone, and that's it. You go and numbers are done. Now let's face in the e-commerce world. Okay, let's say I'm giving you a target. Okay, I am looking for $10 million in through my e-commerce sales. So how are you going to approach this? What is going to be your plan in getting me $10 million?
Well, all right, $10 million. That's all you want, Sam?
That's all. Low expectations,
The first place I'm going to look in B2B is I'm going to look to increasing my existing wallet share with current customers.
Yeah.
And that's going to take us back to some of the strategies that we've talked about on other sessions, right? And I think you can go right back to how do you increase average order value? We gave a ton of tips away there. But really, I think, once I increase existing wallet share from current customers, I'm going to go look for new revenue streams. Okay. Yeah. So those are the two ways I'm going to drive business. And I hope that the first way has some lower hanging fruit for me. And then I can attack the more challenging. What I will tell you, which is to go after new revenue streams. Okay. But what I will tell you is that we teach kind of a 5-step process for how to really drive revenue. And this is going to show that 5-step process. And you can see revenue growth is step number 5. But the first step really is mapping the customer journey. And it's ensuring, and so you can go back to listen to our mapping the customer journey episode. And really that's designed to ensure that you're making it easy for your customers to do business with you. And you're really creating a site for the customers that you're trying to target, right? So make sure you have that customer journey mapped. Then the second step is really that we need to launch an e-commerce site. So you have got to do the work to actually take your requirements that typically come out of mapping that customer journey, and you've got to launch an e-commerce site. Now, that's no small task, but what I will tell you is the most important aspect of launching is that you need to tell everybody about it everywhere that you are, okay? Because adoption is key. In B2B world, oftentimes you need 3 to 4 touch points with your existing customers before they even know that you're offering something different, which means you're going to have to leverage your salespeople. You're going to have to leverage your customer call center. You're going to have to be in all the places where your customers are and promoting that you have this new sales channel and way to do business with you. So that launch, the communication, the getting people on board. Often we've seen, sales teams be incentivized to grow revenue because there is going to be, and we've talked about this in past episodes, But in the B2B space, there's going to be some left pocket to right pocket action when you move online, right? You're not going to just, you're going to be shifting your business from one way of doing business with you to the new way of doing business with you. But if you don't shift them, then you can't find those unique ways in in that digital transformation space to upsell, cross-sell, bundle, all the different things we talked about to increase your average order value and ultimately to increase customer lifetime value. So you get the adoption, and I'm going through these quickly because I know the team's going to have a lot to add to this, but you're going to increase that customer adoption. And the reason why you want it the most is because my number one favorite thing to talk about is gathering product and customer insights through analytics. You need to drive traffic to your site so you can monitor the behavior of what they're doing, which will give you the business insights to then the next step, which is to act on those insights. Do you need to increase your inventory on any products? Do you need to improve the categorization of your products to make it easier to find what people are searching for and ultimately convert? Do you need to align your pricing because people are searching and you have inventory, but they're not buying because there might be something wrong with your pricing? So you need the adoption to get the analytics, and then you need to act on those insights. And when you do this iteratively, that's how you end up growing the business. You're going to find all of the new opportunities within the data to keep driving your success. So that's a very quick summary, but that's how we teach manufacturers and distributors to grow their business online.
Okay, some amazing insights there, and I'm going to have a ton of clarifying questions for you. So as you can see, I am a very traditional sales leader. I have a lot of grays on my head, So if you look from my perspective, the way I used to do sales is, I had my territories, I had a bunch of guys, I would have compensation on my fingertips, and that was my tool set that I could, do my magic, and I could actually meet my numbers. Now you're talking about all of that, which is great. But for me, the biggest priority for me is going to be, how am I going to meet my numbers for the year? Or probably I don't have my job, right? So the strategies that you spoke about is great. But in my mind, that is probably the job of the marketing team. So now if I look at from the sales perspective, I used to do, as a sales leader, I used to have my territories. Do I need to design my territories inside the e-commerce? Because if I give you a target of, let's say, $10 million, but $10 million is what you need to get. So if I cannot break it down in different territories, I cannot really analyze what is working, what is not working. So in the e-commerce world, how would you design the territories so that I can pinpoint where the problems are? And how can I find people who are going to be accountable for the revenues? If I have 10 million, I probably need to find 10 people who are going to carry the quota of 1 million. Otherwise, I'm not here. Okay, so that's the approach that I used to take in the traditional world. So how would you approach this in the e-commerce world?
Yeah, so in B2B, what would continue is these territories. So you would still have territories, and salespeople would be armed with a new tool in their toolbox. Okay, so when they're approaching customers, they have something new to talk about. And this should be a delight for customers and a delight for the salesperson, because it should be something, salespeople are always looking for something new to open a door inside of, having a new conversation with a customer. So if they have a quota to grow different sales in a specific territory with these specific accounts, they now can call on them with something new to talk about. And they can take all of the reasons why that new e-commerce channel is going to benefit and help them. So if they've done the customer journey mapping, this is a solution that is going to help this customer and ease the process of doing business with that salesperson's company. Okay. So they're going to go in, they're going to talk about it. Hopefully they're going to be incentivized to get people to register and incentivized to get people to start placing orders online, because that's how we increase the adoption, so we can get all of the other items. And by increasing that that salesperson's ability to have that conversation, if he's incentivized or she's incentivized to talk to customers about it, there might be a bonus or something that's valuable for them as well. Now, what's going to happen when they get customers who are more often using the digital tool? They're going to be freed up from some of the activities that take them away from the actual selling of the more complex sales processes. A salesperson shouldn't have to be called for transactional type activities that can be accomplished in the adoption of an e-commerce store. So by freeing up that salesperson's time, they actually can spend more of their time on true sales activities and going after their 10 million quota, because now they're actually helping. Sales don't go away just because the e-commerce is an option. The salesman should be able to better his or her game by providing the e-commerce store and its benefits when those are appropriate, and then that specific conversation with the salesperson, having their time, their response time, so that it can facilitate selling more and helping them achieve that quota.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for those insights, Tess. Thank you. Ben, I'm actually going to move to you next. I'm a traditional sales leader here. Brother, I'm simply trying to meet my numbers, and I'm simply trying to save my job here. So now you are going to help me in meeting my numbers, how I'm going to meet my numbers of $10 million. Would you take the same approach as Chris has taken, or would you approach this differently?
Actually, there's quite a bit that is pretty much exactly the way I would do it. First, I would call Chris and then talk to her. But there's actually quite a bit of that is pretty much the same. I think one of the big things which you just touched on, Chris, was the how much can essentially be automated? How much can you free the salesperson's time while giving them an incentive? Because you don't want to say I'm taking away 50% of your revenue because you're no longer selling to this person. But it's more profitable to, making up numbers, of course, rather than paying a 15% commission, pay a 5% commission on renewals online. And the salesperson has more time to focus on the things that are a little bit more complex of a sale. Larger items, larger POs or RFPs have a tendency to take longer. So let's get them on those 15% commission deals while letting this other stuff kind of operate on its own. But I want to go back even further. You said $10 million. One thing I think companies need to look at more specifically is that an actual number? Have they done the research for the target market, the product that they're offering, et cetera? Because I think it was Harvard Business Review did an article not too long ago where they're quoted saying something like, if 10 to 15% of your salespeople miss their target, it's probably the salespeople. But if most of the salespeople miss their target, the problem is the target. So I would actually start there, is make sure that the market will bear what's going on. And then you're providing, whether it's through e-commerce solutions or tech stack for the sales team or whatever that happens to be, the tools to actually hit those targets. So I don't want to rehash what Chris was just talking about. I agree with all of it. Let's just add to it some of the tools that can make that easier. One of which I'm a fan of chatbots and live chat. There's a lot of different tools out there that really simply can just, especially if you're a global company, it can route to whoever's online at the time. I remember I was chatting with a CEO at one point, and they mentioned that the best time to catch a C-suite person and actually get them to talk to you is something like 9 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. The reason being they're caught up over the weekend and they're just kind of sitting there on their couch watching Netflix, kind of cruising through their emails or something like that. Well, CEO comes online and says, yeah, I want to chat with someone. By the time they submit the form on the website and you get to them tomorrow, you're probably not going to catch them anymore. But if you have a live chat that you can route there or a chat bot that can schedule the appointment right then, I think that's a big win. And then one of the other elements, there's a relatively new sales tool, a little bit self-serving because I know more about this, but it's give the sales people the tools that they need when they are doing the outreach to follow up very quickly. And video sales right now is incredibly useful. There's a company whose name I'm not allowed to mention, but they used a particular video sales tool called Elevate to run a test during COVID. And what they have done with that is they've, don't quote me on this, but I think it was a 5x open rate and a 4x close rate for open rate for the initial outreach and close rate for the deals closed, because you actually engage with someone on a more personal level. And if you can encourage your salespeople and give them the tools to get those kinds of numbers, they can focus on the high value targets. Which leads me to my last point, then I'll open it up for questions or sharing it over. I personally, to your point about territories, I'm an ABS and ABM fan, account-based selling and account-based marketing. It allows your sales team and your marketing team to be significantly more specific about what they're doing. And of course, if other things happen, someone comes in, they're not part of the account, oh no, you just assign it to a salesperson and it helps with their numbers. But this gives the company a better opportunity to create a consistent user experience all the way through. And I think that is an important key. I don't want to see an ad that looks like one thing and go to a website that looks completely different and then talk to a salesperson that doesn't match all three of those things. So consistency of messaging and user experience is key, tied to everything else in one lump. And now I'll be quiet.
Okay, amazing. So I'm actually going to have one clarifying question for you as well, if you don't mind. So this problem, one of the problems that you mentioned, this actually existed in the traditional world as well. So if I compare, if I give $1 million quota to my salesperson, he or she is going to whine, all the time that, I can no way get $1 million from this territory because either they're small or there are no enough customers or whatever. So we always had to struggle with those challenges. So now to your point about, let's say, if I give you $10 million quota, and obviously you are going to do some sort of validation. So what are some of the strategies that you have seen in your experience to validate how much is the market potential in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we look at, especially with the account-based selling and marketing, is what is the total addressable marketing or total addressable market? It's really easy, especially in the United States, for someone to say, wow, you think I'm going to sell $1 million, but there's not that many companies. Grab a tool like ZoomInfo or Seamless AI or something like that, and actually look at what the total, who could you sell to? I promise it's larger than anyone thinks it is. So that is, I think, the very first thing is look at a total addressable market, then look at the quota that you're giving people. And, a $10 million quota for a year on, it doesn't even really matter what it is. That is going to be 0.1% or less of the total addressable market in most cases. And putting those numbers in front of the salespeople, to me, has always been helpful to explain to them. You never want to say we're going to get X amount of market share for sure. But if you can say, we're not even trying for 1% market share, we're just trying for a percentage here. I have never had someone come back and say, oh, well, I don't think I can get my 10 million quota anymore. I don't think the company can get their 10 million quota anymore. Because you're talking about, a $5 billion industry or, whatever it is. So look at the total addressable market and then figure out what portion of wallet share you're trying to get there.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for that, Ben. And Eric, I'm actually going to move to you next. So I know that, you are not probably going to like the sales job, but for today in this forum, you are going to have the only job, which is called sales, right? So now, and obviously your interaction is going to be more from the enablement perspective as opposed to more of from the execution perspective. So let's say when you are enabling these territories inside the systems, obviously you need to know how the territories are going to be mapped out. So let's say if you were the VP of sales for today, how would you approach the territories? How would you make sure that you are able to meet your numbers if I give you $10 million target? Would you approach it any differently from Chris or Ben? Are you going to have anything to add there?
Thanks, Sam. What they said sounds lovely. I'm neither in sales nor marketing, but I have had to do that, so I know a little bit about it. I think we would start with a customer journey to try to understand who there are. We have experience in both B2B and B2C customers, and it sounds like so far most people are addressing B2B markets. I mean, inferring this from their comments, because you don't typically assign salespeople to retail customers unless they're very large. So the suite of tools we would use would be different. But how I would do this with a VP of sales is I guess I would start with data and analytics to see what the largest targets are. That's what I did when I ran my own business. And we, right now, manufacturing for Earthling Interactive, manufacturers are somebody that we look at as behind the curve. And so that's one of our target audiences. So I can say that from personal experience. So we do some basic research. And again, I'm not in sales, but we would do some basic research. We'd build a suite of tools that allow us to market to them. And the tools we would probably use is a combination of inbound marketing, thought leadership. We do a lot of that. Videos and participate in events like this to try to attract them, and then the prospects. And when they come in, we would do our due diligence regarding what sort of prospect they are, what market sector they're in, and what the valuation of their company is, because we are looking for companies in a certain particular slice of business. And then we would assign a salesperson to them, and we put the tool we use, in fact, for most of our marketing is SharpSpring. There's many others around, but that's one of the tools we use, the biggest one. So that's kind of how we would go about it. As you can tell from my awkward answer, I'm not in sales or marketing.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for that, Eric. And Dave, I'm actually going to move to you next. I know that you are going to talk about, the SEO, the backlinks, but what matters to me, I only understand the numbers here as VP of sales. So tell me how I'm going to get my $10 million in this year.
Absolutely. So what you need to do when you're serious about hitting your quota is work backwards from the numbers, right? So how do you get a certain amount of leads as a B2B, as a manufacturer? And you just need to work the sales ratios to go backwards from that. So if we're looking at, we need so many customers, we need to back up to how many opportunities we need. And then we need how many SQLs, sales qualified leads, MQLs to leads to prospects and visitors. So from the top of the funnel down, I need so many visitors and so many interactions on my website. And Chris did this brilliantly. She said, you need to have as many people as possible completing orders on your website. Your website is actually your most consistent, always on salesperson, right? So if you can get as many leads as possible into that website, and if you're doing easy transactions and giving your opportunities for your sales team to those deals that actually need to be worked, right, then that lets you get to that level where your sales team can be much more helpful and useful to your clients. And at the same time, you're trying to bring back and just have your website and your e-commerce tools level set and do a lot of that for you. So as I move from prospect to visitor to lead to MQL on the marketing side, on the Dave side, my job is to give as many of those marketing qualified leads to the sales team where they can then verify them themselves by connecting with them, contacting them, turning them into sales qualified leads. And those sales qualified leads then turn into opportunities. We work them through the CRM, and we back up into inbound marketing and ABM and a lot of those things to continually re-engage the people that are either considering but haven't decided, that are tire kicking, or that are just trying to figure out where they are in their buyer's journey. So your job, our job, from the interactive, from the technology perspective, is to give the sales team as many opportunities to succeed by giving the customer, the prospect, as many ways to set their own narrative as possible. It almost needs to feel like a choose your own adventure when someone visits a B2B website or a manufacturing website now. You go there, you say, okay, I need this. And then your content should do the rest of the work. If I click on something that says that I'm interested in stamps and dies, I should get more stamps and die information from that website via emails or via connections or via automated chatbots like Ben said. So the more you can do that, the more you can deliver, the more it feels like you're having a conversation instead of just trying to sell. People love to buy online, but nobody likes to be sold. So you need to work that conversation and make it a more interactive engagement.
Okay, amazing. So, amazing insights there. And I am probably going to have a clarifying question for you as well. Obviously, people don't like to sort of get sold, but I mean, see, it's my job to sell, and I need to sell. Otherwise, I'm not meeting my numbers. My family is not eating. So that's my job, right? So here, one of the things that one of the sales, leader is going to advise is don't boil the ocean. If anybody is going to boil the ocean, things just don't work out. So again, I'm actually going back to the similar question in terms of defining the territories. So let's say if I'm looking at my MQLs, the SQLs, and the opportunities, and yes, the numbers are going to be there, but I need some sort of division in terms of the responsibilities, in terms of the territories. So how would you break this down in the manageable chunks so that I am able to compare these segments, I am able to compare these territories? What will be your approach, Dave, in terms of dividing this, the $10 million plan into sort of the $1 million plans?
Sure. So what I would do and what we do with our clients at BusyWeb is we work backwards from how much revenue we need. So we say 10 million, or so 10 million in revenue. And then we work out how much revenue per sale that is. For easy math, let's just say it's $1 million in sales, and so I need to make 10 sales, right? So I know how many leads I need because I know how much revenue I need, and then I know that so many people need to visit my website in order to get a click on or a completion. And so we'll say a 10%, for if we do round numbers all the way across, let's just call it 10%. So if I go, and I'll actually do real numbers for a second.
Yeah.
So we have 10 million in revenue. And if my average deal size is $1 million, that means that I need 100 customers, or no, just 10 customers, right? So for that 10 customers, I need probably 20 opportunities. And I know with my sales team, they're very effective. They can do about 50% of the time. So I just need 40 new deals that my sales team is working. And I know that in order to get that, I need, let's just call it double again. So I need 80 MQLs.
Yeah.
And then I need 160 leads in order to do that. And I need probably 320 visits to my website of qualified people. So we work all of that backwards. And I actually have a lead calculator that I'm going to try to find and post in the comments, because this isn't hard math, but unless you think about it, and unless you actually start inputting these variables, it makes it really hard to get buy-in as a sales leader or as a marketer. So if you do that, use the lead calculator that I'm going to find and I'm going to post in here. And then you can just work backwards and said, boss, we only need 1,500 more people to our website every month if they're the right people. And then you can work forward from that, right? So I think that's a detailed answer to your question, but the round answer to your question, or the more generic answer to your question is, you just need to figure out what levers are affecting your sales. So if your sales team is doing what they need to do, then they're going to produce X amount. But if you don't have the numbers, if you don't have a CRM, if you're not looking at your reports, you have no clue. And I run into tons of businesses, especially in manufacturing, where they're working off Post-it notes and Excel sheets. So unless you have a reporting system, unless you're using a CRM of some sort, it makes it really hard to actually pull those levers and do what you need to do. So having the right data and making assumptions based on what that data is where it's at.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for that, Dave. And I am going to have a follow-up question, but that is actually going to go to Steve, because he is from the B2C market. And when we look at the B2B world, Steve, this calculation is going to be far easier. In the B2C world, when we are looking at $10 transactions, and we need to meet $10 million quota, it's far more difficult to be able to do these calculations. And you actually bring a very interesting perspective, because you actually worked in the store planning space, and now you are in the e-commerce space. I know that you always talk about that your website could be the biggest store. I get it. But let's say if you were to design these territories and if you were to do the structured planning to meet your numbers, what will be your approach, Steve, to meet the $10 million quota?
Great question, and thanks for asking. And it's funny. I'm usually, when you come to me, the website guy that talks about data and structures and systems, and everybody's done a really good job of that. So I think the best answer I can bring to the panel today is to talk about it from a consumer products goods standpoint in terms of giving salespeople the stuff to actually sell. And what I would say is, if you're somebody like, say, I don't know, I almost called Yakima. YKK is a famous zipper company, right? Yeah. And if they only made one size zipper, they wouldn't be a very good zipper company, right? And so they're looking to actually dominate the zipper category, which they do. High-end zippers, YKK is the company in the world, right? Now, what I would say is if you're a manufacturer and you make products both for wholesale and for retail, you need to be considering what your market spread is. Is your product mix actually picking up all the little pieces that you can? And if you're somebody, I'll use YKK as an example, why not become not just the zipper people, but maybe the fastener people? Because a lot of those zippers are made in the same places where Delrin buckles are made, and other types of materials. And so, on a smaller scale, if you're an outdoor clothing company and you only make a hoodie, a pair of shorts, 2 t-shirts, and a women's yoga pant, you actually could add $10 million to your sales just by recognizing that actually every category of clothing, from shirts to pants to shorts to swim trunks, between men's and women's, needs 4 products a piece at 4 different price ranges. Well, if you fix that product mix and put that in the hands of your salespeople, and you've talked about territories and whatnot, but basically if everybody's got their territory and you say you've got these 3 states or 5, you've got these 5, you've got these 5, you've given them the powerful tools they need to go in and sell not just a product, but an entire line. And in the case of clothing, women actually buy outfits, men buy garments. So if you're not selling, and women represent about 65%, at least in the especially outdoor retail world, and I think it's true internationally of all clothing purchases, they buy 65% of the clothes. So do you want to have that extra 15% by selling outfits that they'll buy for their partner? I'd say yes. So my answer to you is, from a CPG standpoint, I think you want to think, I like to use the term strategic theme thinking, meaning from that 100,000 foot level, you need to be thinking about themes like one thing would be to think about your products in terms of generations. Apple doesn't just make a new iPhone so they can sell you more. Of course, maybe that is the main reason, but they also know that it's going to get better, and they're thinking about the iPhone 20 right now, right? And we're sitting with the 12. You need to be thinking of your products like that. You don't need to build obsolescence into them to actually make them better. So think about your themes like that, and think about product mix as a theme. And you put that in the hands of good salespeople, and the good salespeople will stick out like a sore thumb, and the bad salespeople will also stick out like a sore thumb.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for that insight. And Chris, I'm actually going to move to you with the next question. And as you know, as Steve was talking about good salespeople versus bad salespeople, and we are probably going to have the mix always, even if we were able to find, let's say, 10 salespeople. So we had the quota of $10 million, and we were trying to hit that. And as soon as you are in Q2, everybody's sort of panicking that, okay, we had decided that, we were going to meet $10 million, and we are not even at, let's say, 3 million or 4 million. And then, the hell breaks loose that, okay, what do we do? So you need to find out what techniques that you can employ to be able to meet your numbers. So what are going to be some of either the strategic or the tactical tools that you are going to utilize to make sure that you are going to meet your numbers at the end of the year?
Yeah. So I'll get really tactical here, right? And I think this separates the good people, the good salespeople from the other salespeople. And that is that they're going to do their homework before they visit their clients, right? So, and here's what I mean by homework. So again, if we've done the work as a company to map the customer journey and launch an e-commerce site and tell everybody we know about it, before I would go in and visit my customer, I would go in and see what percentage of their sales are they doing online today versus offline today. So that means they're either using my time to process the sale, or they're going through our customer service department, or they're fully they've fully moved online. That's where, and if I believe as a salesperson that that sales channel, that e-commerce sales channel is such a value to them that they should want to use it. So I want to keep telling them about it. And I also believe that their average order value is going to go up if they do that, which means that I'm going to get faster to my $10 million, right? So by deploying all the strategies that we've talked about in other sessions, I want them on the site because they're going to be happy, satisfied customers and want to keep coming back to us for business. And when they need me to be useful, they will call me to be useful, but all the other times they're going to be using this awesome tool that we've built that makes their job easier. So I'm going to do the homework. I'm going to look at what are they buying online, but most importantly, what are they not buying online that my other customers are buying online, and what might be the reason for that? So I'm going to, because in our analytics tool, we can get into that customer user login and see the details of what's happening online. Do they have many abandoned carts? Is there some level of information that I can provide to them? Maybe they don't know how to use the website. Maybe they've lost their password. Maybe they don't understand the value of the website. So by doing my pre-planning, I'm going to go in and show them how, again, in our world, how to be sure that we are helping them identify the exact product that they need for the piece of equipment that they own, right? So how it's safe, how it helps them do their job, how we have created bundles, and how we've created kits that not only when they're looking for one component, we've packaged other components to make their job easier. But if they're just calling into the customer call center, they might miss the opportunity to see that. So I'm going to walk in with the information. So maybe I've got 10% of the people at my customer who are using the e-commerce site, and there's another, 90% that are not. I want to go see those people. I want to make sure that they've been introduced to the site. So I'm going to be very tactical. I'm going to dive into the data. I'm going to leverage the knowledge of what other customers are doing, why they're using the site, and I'm going to bring that information to my clients so that it increases that adoption so that I can have a better chance of hitting my numbers.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris, for that. So I'm actually going to move to Ben next. So Ben, as a sales leader, I have tried all of these techniques. The things are still not working. Now we are in Q4, and you know how sales organizations work. You have been in many, right? So now everybody starts taking the personal leaves in Q4 because they know what's going to happen, towards the end of the year. So now, as a sales leader, you need to make sure your people are protected. You also need to make sure that everybody's able to meet their numbers because that's your job as a sales leader. So what are some of the strategic and the tactical steps that you are going to take to make sure that the company is able to meet $10 million in revenue?
Yeah, well, first you fire anyone who takes leave in Q4. That's well, I think before we've gotten to Q4 and we found out we're so far off target, I think we do need to look at our linearity earlier in the year. This is going back to what everyone else is talking about at the data. If we've come to Q4 and we don't have a plan already, that's a failure from the sales leadership side. And that's going back to what we were talking about earlier, which is, are the numbers actually realistic? What is the linearity? To Dave's point earlier, you know what your numbers are at the end. and you can work your way back up to the top of the funnel. So one of the things I would actually be looking at, especially with a company with limited resources, is where are we actually focusing the activity to drop someone into the funnel? It wasn't a couple of weeks ago now, I was actually running numbers, and we figured out by going from unaware, top of funnel, all the way down to hit certain numbers, you ended up having to give each salesperson like 38 leads a day to follow up with. But if you focus efforts and drop them into the MQL or the SQL, somewhere in that kind of middle of funnel section, you bring it down to hitting, and these are real numbers, hitting the actual targets came to 3 leads per day. And that just happened to do with limited budget, limited resources, just where are we dropping them in the funnel? So that's one element I would actually strongly take a look at as a sales leader, is how do I pair with the rest of the organization and figure out where we're going to focus our efforts. One of the other things, going back to the e-com site, this is a little bit more on the consumer side of things, but is still relevant in the B2B space. Get the friction reduced. I think there was something like 58% of abandoned carts were because people found an unexpected cost. You're buying a thing, it's $100. Also, it's $75 shipping. Well, 58% of people will, or 58% of abandoned carts were specifically because of that, or lack of transparency in how much they're paying. So to everyone else's point, figure out the friction that is being caused on the website by looking at the data and looking at the customer journey and reducing that as much as possible. So you're in Q4, you're figuring out what's going on. That means you have 3 quarters of data to look back at. Where did people get stuck on the website? Why are we not going back to the average order value discussion from a couple of weeks ago? Why are we not optimizing that? And the last thing I would say on this is, if we haven't done this already as sales leaders, we should have, going back to chatbots or literally anything else. If someone hasn't bought, why aren't they a lead? Because we should be nurturing them in some way. Some sort of incentive to get their contact information. If they've converted a new customer, amazing. Let's shoot them a nice email, make it an amazing experience once they're a customer. But if they haven't, we should be nurturing those people. And we're in Q4, sales team isn't hitting their numbers. You got a massive lead list from the last 3 quarters. Get it. You've got 10 people and 500 people on that lead list. Awesome. 50 each. Go. Because you've had a year of nurture for those people.
Okay, amazing insights there, Ben. Thank you so much for that. Steve, I'm going to move to you next, because last time you did not get opportunity to talk as much. So this time, here's your chance. And by the way, when we talk about Q4 firings, as we know, salespeople are really, really good at messaging. Okay, and one of the things that you are going to notice is none of the reasons when they actually disappear in Q4 are going to be related to not meeting the target. They are probably going to be personal reasons. So obviously you cannot fire them. Okay, there's no way you can fire them. But as a sales leader, you need to meet your numbers. Otherwise, you are definitely going to get fired. Okay, so Steve, some of the strategic or tactical activities that you are going to take, or the steps that you are going to take to make sure that we meet our numbers as a company.
Well, I'm going to say, if you don't know your folks, I guess in the world I live in, if you don't know your folks are going to meet their targets in Q4 by the end of Q2, then you aren't planning properly. And your people don't have the systems in place to actually succeed. So, with our clients, we're looking out more like 6 quarters out. And we're looking at product development, R&D, release dates, and we're looking at the capabilities of the shipping department, and how much volume they can do, and how much of that might get pushed to Amazon as a shipper for us. So, when you're a manufacturer and you're selling CPG, consumer product goods, and you're selling into mom and pop shops and big box stores, those orders should be placed well in advance. And so really, in my world, a salesperson who doesn't hit their sales quota for Christmas season, we probably already know that something's wrong in about June or July. So we really need to be looking far ahead. So the answer is, what do you do to help them do that? Which is, I think, your real question. How do they hit their goals? Is you have to give them good products to sell. You have to give them the tools to do it. And I know that sounds a little bit generic, but we're really just talking about good systems, which everybody sort of mentioned, and good people. I literally just got off the phone, an hour and a half ago with a company that went to the trade show, And they've realized that a bunch of their consumers actually knew how to use CSV files, which they hadn't experienced at any trade show previously. And we think it's because COVID made them learn how to do it. And they came back and said, is there any way we can import CSV files for all of these companies, or they can import CSV files on the web instead of them sending them to us? Because now all of a sudden they know how to use them. And so that I bring that up because it's a systemic process that wasn't necessary 18 months ago and now is. And being able, having a sales rep or a dealer able to actually do that is actually a way to decrease their workload and increase the opportunity for them to go out and get more clients or more sales.
Okay, amazing insights there. Thank you so much, Steve, for that. Dave, I'm actually going to move to you next. What are some of the specific steps that you are going to take to make sure that the sales team or the sales leadership is able to meet their numbers? The initial plan is great, but we need to make sure that we are hitting the numbers. So what specific steps that you have seen in making sure that they are able to meet the numbers?
Now, one of the biggest things that you need to do regularly as a sales team is continue to loop back and work with your team to make sure that they're getting the support that they need to close the deals.
Yeah.
But also you need to make sure that you're managing your sales team, right? So having reporting in your CRM, making sure that your team is making the calls that they committed to in their SLA and their service level agreement, making sure that your lead generation system, your marketing, is delivering the amount of leads that you promised, and that you're holding each other accountable for that, goes a long ways. So look at the numbers, make sure that you're taking advantage of that. Just like Steve said, make sure that you're working the process, right? We're all in a buyer's journey, and we need to make sure that our customers are actually moving through those spaces. But you also just need to make sure that everybody's doing what they promised to do. And if they are doing those things, but you're still not getting the numbers you need to do something else, right? So you can't just sit on your hands and not do anything. You need to either double down on getting more leads. You need to double down on sales activity and say, okay, your sales quota was 80 calls a week. Now you're doing 120. And we're going to get you the leads. We'll get you Zoom info. We'll get you whatever you need. We'll make sure that you have the right contacts, but you're doing more because we need to hit those numbers. So that's what I would look at.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for that, Dave. Eric, I'm actually going to move to you next. And now you sort of know when you are going to get that call from the salesperson, when they have been assigned 120 calls and they have to do something. Okay, they have to meet their numbers. And you are probably going to get that call and you are probably not going to like it, Eric. But let's say if you were the sales leader, okay, and you have to make sure that you are meeting the numbers or you don't have a job. Okay, what specific steps that you would take in the organization to make sure, especially from the e-commerce front, that your team is able to meet their numbers?
Well, I think they need to comment or pay attention to the reporting and see what the sales funnel is from the sectors that are the most profitable as a start, and work those. And once they've exhausted those, go to the second best. And I think reporting is a huge part of it. But also there are tools on the front end that can be implemented, that things like product configurators or assisted shopping. So you could have assisted shopping is kind of a loose term, but we use that, including things like 3D configurators or even video with a salesperson online. Some salespeople may be reluctant to use these. So you could be sure that they are well versed in how to use these tools, because once they get good at it, they can realize, wow, this is really a direct connection with the prospect, and that will definitely help them close some sales. So those are cool ways we could do it. So I think education's a big part of it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eric, for that insight. So now we are going to take the closing advice. Chris, what would be your short closing advice?
Yeah, my closing advice would be that to close the sales gap, the information is in your data. Okay. The customers who are not buying from you is in your data. The products that you're not selling is in your data. The quotes that haven't converted to orders is all in your data. So you have to get into that data. You've got to do the work, uncover what's not happening. Because if you understand your aftermarket or your market potential, then what's not happening is where the opportunity exists. And then you define how you go get that opportunity. And that's where you target your salespeople. You narrow it. So hopefully you've got all this automation happening and people are being driven to your site and they're realizing the benefits. But then you have these others that are not. And that's where your opportunities are. It might be opportunities for promotions on products, right? So if you're not selling them, it could be, again, something's wrong with your inventory or pricing, or you need to promote it because they don't recognize you as the seller of that. So how can you promote it? That's what I would say.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. Ben, we can take only short closing advice, maybe a sentence. What would be your closing advice?
Same thing. Data. Data is where it is. The only thing I would add to what Chris just said is just be totally clear that data is non-emotional. So look at it from an objective point of view. And just the data is what it is. Just be sure you're being objective when you're trying to interpret it.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Ben, for that. Eric, I'm actually going to move to you. What would be your closing advice?
I have to agree completely with Chris. But also, besides the data, make sure your salespeople know the tools that are already available and you've paid to develop, because they're there. By the time they're paid for, they're free to use.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for that. And today is probably going to be the day of data. So let's see what Dave has to say in his closing advice.
I'm going to say ignore data. Don't worry about data. All you need to know is to work your plan and to make sure that you're hitting your goals, and use data to do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Dave. Steve, what would be your closing advice?
I'm going to say Google level 1 and level 2 strategy mapping, and look at long-term strategic planning, and then apply some data. But don't do it without a plan. You got to know what you think you're doing in 2 years, and you might change it 6 months or 12 months from now, but you need to make a decision about what that looks like now in order to be able to make a decision that was the wrong decision later. So do your planning.
Love it. Thank you so much, guys. And if you joined for the first time, this was part of the e-commerce series. We meet every week on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We pick one topic related to e-commerce, and we always have very exciting panel here. So don't miss next week's show. We are going to be here. On that note, thank you so much, everybody, for your insight and time.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.